Call the regular meeting of the Butte-Silver Council of Commissioners for tonight, May 4th, 2016 to order. Clerk, can we please have a roll call?
We have 12 present and 0 absent.
All right. Commissioner Henderson, can you lead us in the prayer and a pledge?
Almighty God, we implore you, look upon us and guide us this night as we make decisions which so greatly affect our community of Butte-Silver. Direct our thoughts, words, and deeds so that we please you and best serve our fellow citizens. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time I would open for public comment on any item that's on tonight's agenda. Is there any public comment regarding an agenda item on tonight? Okay, seeing none, move into the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting for April 20th, 2016. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. At this time, I move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting occurred on April 20th, 2016.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve. Seeing nothing on the question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving into the Chief Executive report. I would start by saying that my attire is from a basketball game tonight. I got my second career start in basketball tonight, and the first time was when I was in the 8th grade and I fouled out in the first half. Tonight I was able to muster 2 air balls, the first air ball of the night, and had to leave after the first quarter and leave the ball in the able hands of our Sheriff Lester. So I hope he's not getting beaten too badly by the Harlem Ambassadors. So moving on, we got a couple items that I just want to make folks aware of. More for the council, but also for the public. I know there's been a lot of calls and questions, concerns, complaints voiced into my office, and I know a number of you have been getting them as well from our 4-H members. I just want to tell folks that again, if you recall, there was some motion towards some mediation back in the early part of this year, but at the end of the day, this is Montana State University Extension's program. They have taken some actions that I think have got a lot of people shaking their heads, asking questions. I know it's an unfortunate situation, and unfortunately, as unfortunate and emotionally charged as it is, we Butte-Silver don't have a lot to do with the decisions that were made, and we can't say a lot at the request of Montana State University Extension, with the exception of 2 things that I will say, and I've talked with a few of you here, but they wanted to pass along and to us that they are going to be working with us, and we made it very clear to them that it was a top priority regardless of where this ends up, that we need to work to where there is a county fair this year, the same week that it always is in August, and that the 4-H kids and their families that have put their blood, sweat, and tears into their projects and their animals not only have that fair to be recognized and celebrated for the work that they've done, but also that they have some advisory structure to get them the assistance so they can see their projects and the raising of their animals through to the end, whether that be the fair 4-H project fair or the auction. And so Butte-Silver through our fair board, Butte-Silver through our community development department is committed to working with this body here, as well as really kind of whatever it takes for us to accomplish those two tasks. And that's that we have a county fair and that our 4-H kids continue to have a positive experience to the greatest degree possible at this point. I know there has been a news story done by the Montana Standard that'll be in tomorrow's paper that will hopefully shed some additional light on what some of the details are surrounding this series of events. And I'm told also that the KTVM NBC News did a story on it as well. So there will be some information on that website and the broadcast later tonight. But again, I just wanted, if you get those questions, forward them on to the MSU Extension folks. And I would say that primarily lies with Steve Sieglin, who is the regional extension agent who oversees our local extension agent, as well as Todd Kessner, who is MSU Extension's head for the entire state of Montana for 4-H programs. Again, that's what I can say at this point. So moving forward onto a more positive item, not that I don't think if we all work together, we can't find a positive outcome for the 4-H. This has been being talked about for a while. Tomorrow, there will be letters sent out that will generally begin the startup of the sidewalk rehabilitation program. I know there's a lot of you who probably maybe as citizens benefited from the replacement of your sidewalks, or maybe some commissioners up here served when that program was still active back in the early 2000s. For whatever reason, there was a more than decade hiatus. We're moving ahead to start the project up again this year. So if you recall, in the 15-16 budget, there were some funds put in there to get this project rolling. We're sending letters out tomorrow to the residents who had previously requested sidewalk improvements. And I know Danette and Dave had been working on that. How far back does that go? I mean, it goes back to the late 90s, early 2000s in some cases. 98. And so basically we're starting with the residents who were on the list that long ago to find out if they're still interested in taking part in the program. And we'll determine the priority of the projects this year after we get that information from the letters going out there for the priority of safety, the previous order of the requests, and then we'll look at the new requests as far as they regard to safety. And so the way this project works, if you recall or not, is that Butte-Silver work crews will do the tear out of the sidewalks, and then we will put out for a contract the finish work for a concrete finisher to do the work. And so we're trying to identify concrete contractors who have availabilities in their schedule this year. And I think it's just a good way to get the ball rolling. It's starting where we left off. And so rather than bite off a huge chunk again with the program, since it's been so long, we're going to start small and eventually work our way back up to where we are. The cost of the sidewalk with these residents who are going to take part in it would then be put on their taxes and paid off in 5 consecutive annuals, so over 5 years. So if it's a $2,000 bill, you'd pay an extra $500 on your taxes, which is split up. So $250 per tax bill for 5 consecutive years. And it makes it a more easy way for us to be able to improve our infrastructure without being hard on our citizens' pocketbooks. So if there are any questions on details, if you start getting calls from your constituents on this, I would urge you to contact Jennifer Kearns in the Public Works Department. Her number is 497-6566. And we can also send out a copy of the letter that your constituents may be receiving tomorrow. So again, that's good news. It's going to be rolling forward again. And I think starting up a program that did a lot of good for a lot of years, and it's about time we got it started again. So the last positive item I would like to, if you recall, we underwent a rigorous search, and I want to thank Commissioner Morgan. I want to thank Danette Gleason. I want to thank our HR department, and I want to thank the Citizens IT Advisory Committee who helped see this through from start to finish and are continuing to help as needed moving ahead. But we did a rigorous search for a new IT manager. And as we move into the 20, we've been in the 21st century for a while. So let's say as we move into 2016 in regards to IT and technology, and we selected a very impressive candidate for that position. And he's been on the job now for a few weeks and is doing a great job. Mr. Mike McKillips in the audience out there. Mike, would you please stand up? So Mike is a Florida native. He comes to us most recently as the IT manager from the Idaho State Police Force out of Boise, and he worked previously with the Department of Administration and IT for the state of Montana, and he's got over 27 years of professional experience in public sector and private sector IT. And at this point, I'd like to just welcome Mike. And if he wants to say a few words, I want you to put a face with the name. He'll be working with this body on the IT things that we have been talking about up here for a while, but they extend far beyond that. Mike?
Thank you. Pleasure to be here. You can forget the face that goes with the name. So just looking forward to getting some of these projects back on track. One of the ones I know that's near and dear to a lot of people up there is heart. The council chambers, we've re-engaged with some vendors on that. So I'm looking to probably late summer kickoff and hopefully completion thereafter of getting that done. So soon you guys will be in the 2016, 2017 era of technology up there. So, and then the other thing is just getting the re-engage with some of the other things that the IT advisory committee started to put forth, get those things rolling again and kind of get caught up, because I know some of them sat idle for a little while. So just a lot of things, a lot of balls in the air at the same time. So ask for a little bit of patience and understanding while we go through this, but we'll get you there.
Welcome, Butte.
Thanks, Mike. And Mike's got a wife with him that I believe is working up at Montana Tech. Yeah. So welcome, Mike. Welcome, McKillipses to Butte. We're happy to have you. And that concludes the chief executive report. So moving into section 1, bid openings, public hearings, and presentations. We've got a couple of public hearings. So County Attorney, do we have proof of publication on those 2 items?
Chief Executive Council, we do have proof of publication on both items, number 1 and number 2, and they are in order.
All right, thank you very much. Item number 1, public hearing, petition number 15-3, Michael Nasham, building official with the Butte-Silver Building Code Department, requesting council authorize a street closure petition on Avon and Utah streets for Copper Fox Development, Inc. This petition was started in 2015. Mr. Nasham?
Thank you, Chief Executive, Commissioners. My name is Michael Nasham. I'm the building official for Butte-Silver. I have with me here Mr. Les Thomas, who is the builder of this subdivision, representing Copper Fox Development. If there's any questions about the street closure, we'd be more than willing to answer those for you.
All right, very good. Do we have any questions for Mr. Nasham? Okay, seeing none, is there nothing further to add? We'll open the public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any proponents? Any proponents in the audience that would like to speak on behalf of the closure? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Is there anybody opposed to the closure of Avon and Utah streets? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Communication number 16-141, Captain Doug Conway with Butte-Silver Bowl Law Enforcement Department requesting Council of Commissioners authorize online submission for the Justice Assistance Grant Program and schedule a public hearing for May 4th, 2016. I do not see Captain Conway in the audience, but I know Danette is probably up to speed on this grant. So Danette, is there anything you can add on this one, or can you answer any questions that might come up?
Chief Executive Vincent, for the council, for the record, my name is Danette Gleason, the Finance and Budget Director. I'm not familiar with this grant. I can tell you the past grants that we've put in for are for a lot of different computer equipment that's been used over in the law enforcement department, as well as some training was used on the past grants. I'm not familiar with what they put in for this particular grant or what they're asking to put in for.
Okay. With that being said, on this, Commissioner McDonough.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. The hyperlink is computer equipment and supplies, it says so.
This is a grant that they put in for and normally receive on a year-to-year basis. So if there aren't any further questions, I would open the public hearing. Are there any proponents for submission of the Justice Assistance Grant? Any proponents? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Is there anyone opposed to the submission of the Justice Assistance Grant? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Moving into section 2, consent agenda. I would like to call for any friendly amendments or segregations. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Excuse me, I'm just getting to the page here. I would like to segregate out of the Public Works Committee meeting report, section 3, communication number 16-160.
Okay. Commissioner Henderson.
Mr. Chief Executive, I'd like to segregate number 13, 16-190.
Other segregations? Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I'd also like to segregate out of the consent agenda item 9, that's 16-185.
Okay. Seeing nothing further, Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. At this time, I move to approve the consent agenda with the exception of, or the consent agenda A1 through 5, with the exception of out of the Public Works Committee report, item 16-160, and item B, communications 1 through 25, item 13, which is 16-190. Oh, and number 9, excuse me, yes, number 9, 16-185.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there anything further? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll take them in order. So A4, 16-160 from the Public Works Committee report, Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I'll just read it quickly. It's section 3, communication 16-160. Nick Sanford, Road Operations Manager, Butte-Silver Bowl Public Works Department, requesting Council of Commissioners approve request for County Attorney to update traffic control signals ordinance to remove the traffic signal at Broadway and Wyoming streets and update stop intersections ordinance to include Wyoming as a stop street before entering Broadway Street. Last week at the Committee of the Whole meeting, a motion was made and seconded, and there were 3 yeas and 3 nays in in favor or not in favor of this request, which just simply sends it to the full council today for approval by the full council. So at this time, I'd just like to give a brief history. This first came up on December 10th last year as a request to remove the traffic signal at the corner of Wyoming and Broadway. And we deliberated for about a month, and then on January 13th, we agreed to allow the Public Works Department 90 days to review it. Of course, spring wasn't around the corner just yet, and we had a lot of work to be done on that and to get some good numbers. And so just recently, we got this communication from our road operations manager asking us now to start moving forward with their recommendation. So the first thing I'd like to do is I'd like to call on Nick Sanford, and he can give the rest of us a thumbnail of what he is requesting. And I want to thank you too, Nick, for giving us this copy of the signal warrant study. It was done 4 years ago.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Shaw, Council Commissioners. Again, my name is Nick Sanford. I'm the Road Operations Manager for Butte-Silver. So I provided you today with a little packet that I provided at the meeting last week, the Public Works Committee meeting. And what it contains is the warrant analysis that was conducted back in 2012 by Dow HKM. And basically what the warrant analysis states, it takes into contemplation 9 different warrants to see if the signal is actually warranted. And based on those warrants, it was found out that the signal is not actually warranted. And then that's based on traffic studies, peak volume hours, pedestrians, and crash experience, roadway network, school crossings, 9 different warrants. So from that 2012 study or warrant analysis, it actually got shelved back then to remove the signal. There was some shuffling around, and it kind of got brought back up back in 2015. And due to the condition, not really the condition, but the aging infrastructure of the signal, we wanted to revisit this, and we noticed there's still low volumes of traffic and lower pedestrian volumes at that intersection, and we'd like you to consider removing that signal at that intersection. And so based on this warrant analysis, and I'll go to after the warrant analysis that's included in this packet, it's kind of a little fact sheet that's put out there by the U.S. Department of Transportation, a myth versus reality, stating, and I'll just give you a few bullet points. It states that unwarranted signals that operate improperly can create situations where overall intersection congestion is increased, and it can create aggressive driving behavior. It can create impatient pedestrians as well. I know pedestrian safety is a big issue at this intersection, but with this warrant analysis and it actually takes into consideration the pedestrians. So it's not actually warranted for pedestrians as well. So, and then we did a little, keep going on in this packet. We went and did a little investigation of ourselves. We didn't conduct a full warrant analysis, but a couple of weeks ago we went out and looked at peak hour volumes, pedestrian volumes, and it came out to be actually less than what was at the warrant analysis back in 2012. We believe it's probably due to the Northwestern Energy building being unoccupied right now. So, but that warrant analysis was conducted when the Northwestern Energy building was fully occupied. So, and then continuing on in this packet, Commissioner Shaw asked to get some costing analysis done on what it would take to remove the signal. It would take a couple of guys. It'd probably take one electrician and 2 laborers with some equipment. And a total cost would be about $2,300 to actually remove the signal. It'd take about 1 day total. She also asked if we could provide some information on the cost of maintenance of the signal per year. And it is an aging signal. These are conservative costs. Based on what we actually have to do per year, and if nothing goes wrong. It came out to be about $1,300 is what we pay to maintain the signal per year. So another costing information was what it would take to put up some signage, some stop signs at the intersection along with some crosswalk signs. It would cost about $960. And we actually have 2 stop signs that were required to be in place for traffic to be stopped on Wyoming Street. So. This and the warrant analysis was it takes into consideration that Broadway would be the through street and Wyoming would be the stop street. So, and then the very last page, it's kind of a crude drawing of what it would look like. We already actually have the painted crosswalk across the street, but we'd put up some signage to indicate that it is a crosswalk at a through street. So I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Nick. Questions for Mr. Sanford? Commissioner Shaw?
Thank you. And Nick, I just want to thank you again. I know you're dealing with a 4-year-old analysis. Things change. The GO building is empty, although we expect that we're going to take ownership of it soon, and we hope to fill it again. So I don't disagree with the numbers on your WARN analysis to take down the signal lights. It does cost money to leave them up. Flashing red or something like that wouldn't cost us anything. We just flip a different button. But what I am concerned about is I can't imagine anybody in their right mind, I'm sorry to say this, to make Broadway a through street from Maine to Arizona. The speed limit is 25 miles an hour. Imagine what that could be like at the intersection with 4 major businesses. You've got the Thornton building, you got the Finland with not only restaurant, but condos. Finland is full of people. You got 4 Cs with children, a bus stop, and a U.S. mailbox receptacle as people cross the street, and then the Thornton building. And I talked to Jim Cambich, and he did a poll of his employees, and they were all very upset about not having at least a 4-way control at that corner. I talked to Frank Terrace at the Finland, and he said the same thing. Gary Dryden owns the Acoma, and the folks over there with the Soho restaurant, and they're open after hours. So you've got 2 bars and a restaurant and Uptown Cafe after hours. And I know a lot of this was not done during the day as far as your number taking. But when I talked to Brenda Hergott, she's executive director at 4C, she actually came here today, and I was going to ask her if she could speak on behalf of her own situation. I figured these are the folks that are going to be dealing with the consequences of having a through street on Broadway. So if you don't have any response to that, Nick, and if you do, fine, I'm just going to call on Brenda just to give us her opinion on what may or may not be a good idea on that.
Yeah, Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Shaw, I actually do have a response to that. If you refer to that fact sheet on myth number 3, installing stop signs on all approaches, a 4-way stop to an intersection will always result in fewer accidents. If there's an unwarranted stop sign at an intersection, it can actually create more of a safety hazard and rear-end crashes. Pedestrians in stop sign congested neighborhoods often have a false sense of security about crossing the local streets if there's actually a unwarranted signal there, or stop control. And this Broadway street is actually unwarranted to have a stop sign there. We actually looked at that as well, part of this warrant analysis to take down the signal. So it can also create rerouting of traffic. People take other side streets and tend to avoid the intersection if a signal or a stop sign is in place. But according to research that, like I said, that I've done and good people at the Federal Highway Division have done, it can actually create safety hazards and more traffic accidents. So.
Commissioner Palmer?
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Nick, what is the plan with the rest of the stoplights uptown? It seems like we're doing them one at a time. So if we take this one out, and then I know they were going to try it at Broadway and Maine too. That was for a while flashing red on Maine and yellow on Broadway just for maybe one day before they stopped it. But if they take out all of the stoplights and then people start using Broadway because it's a through street all the way, making a dangerous situation. And then the state comes along and looks at Park and Main, and it doesn't warrant a stoplight there. Where are we going to be? It seems like we're going backwards instead of, it's a community with no stoplights. I mean, even Mayberry RFD had a flashing light anyway, but.
Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Palmer, that at Main and Broadway there, I'll just address that one first. It actually wasn't supposed to be flashing at that time. Sometimes they get shorts or, electrical malfunction, and then they just revert to flashing. So that wasn't ever in the plan to be flashing at the time for a day or anything. There has been a warrant analysis conducted on that, and that has not been brought to the council yet. Kind of see how this one goes first, and then bring them up one at a time, two at a time. See how each of them go at a time. But that one contemplates actually having Main Street as the through street, and Broadway would be a stop street. So Broadway would not be a through all the way to Arizona there. So,
Commissioner Sorge.
Thank you.
Follow up, Commissioner Palmer.
Well, I guess as a follow-up, the second part of that, is the state looking at Park and Main? That's a state-controlled intersection, is that true?
Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Palmer, that is a state-controlled intersection. Butte-Silver maintains it, but a warrant analysis is currently being conducted because of the Northwestern Energy Building. They had it flashing for a while, but they are going to conduct a warrant analysis on that, and no results have been handed down yet. So,
I guess what my point I'm trying to get is, wouldn't it be better to look at the overall picture instead of doing one at a time and see what it would look like all at once before we make any decisions on one particular stoplight?
Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Palmer, that's actually one of the warrants that is considered in the warrant analysis. One of the 9 warrants is the overall picture, overall traffic structure of the area as well. So that is considered in the warrant analysis as well. So,
Commissioner Sorge.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Nick, I can probably agree with these numbers, on the analysis between the hours you've done, but it seems like after 8 o'clock, uptown becomes a lot more active. So I'm not so totally convinced that these numbers would be completely accurate, because we haven't done any analysis after the 8 o'clock hour. It seems like that corner gets busy after 8. You got the Maloney's Bar right around the corner, not too far. You got quite a few establishments in that area so that's I think it'd be a discussion point.
Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Nick, with the questions that are out there, is it possible to test it out with the stoplight there, or is it just better to make a decision on this tonight?
Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Morgan, what exactly do you mean by leave? So currently it's flashing yellow on Broadway to indicate a through street, and flashing red on Wyoming. So that was the test for 90 days to kind of see how that worked. And actually leaving the light up there is actually creating some confusion with people, as the light on Main and Park was a flashing red in all directions. So people thought that one might've been a flashing red in all directions. But looking at, taking a look at it through our 90-day analysis and observation, it seems like, we didn't do a full warrant analysis, but it seems like plugging those numbers into a full warrant analysis, it would warrant taking the stoplight out now as it would back in 2012. So,
Follow up.
Thank you, Nick. Yeah, so that works if it's flashing yellow right now. I guess the question that I have is, we hired Dow in 2012 to review this, and this is one of their things that they do quite often. They study this, so I know that their credentials are there, and it comes a point that we have to take their credentials for what they're worth, and expect that these people know what they're doing. I do know that there's a lot of questions and people out there that are right in the area that are probably saying, no, we need to have a stoplight. But, and Commissioner Palmer made the reference that even Mayberry, which I think that was on black and white TV, I think, they even have one. But, it also reminds me, too, of a time when I started as a commissioner where people wanted to have children at play signs put up everywhere, and people were calling me to put them up there. And, we tried, but people get so used to seeing children at play signs, they forget they're there. And that could be the same instance with people forgetting that the stoplights are there, and they're not really realizing them because they've been there for 100 years. So change isn't a bad thing. With public safety, they take all that into account, and I think we need to go with what the experts say. Thanks.
Okay, Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. And I I don't disagree with that. I'm willing to, cut our losses and mitigate this because I do believe in studies in this case. I think I am not an expert. I don't know the engineering aspects. I appreciate again what you guys have done, but there's statistics and we're dealing with a corner. Every intersection is different. And this situation, everyone in this room knows what that corner is like. You got serious congestion at the corner. And at this time, I'd like to call on Brenda, and she can give us her opinion on it. She's one of those corners, and I think she would like to have an opportunity to do that. So.
Brenda?
Mr. Chief Executive and council members, my name is Brenda Herget. I am the Executive Director at the Butte Four Cs. We are located at 101 East Broadway, right on the corner of this intersection that we're talking about. And I appreciate all of the numbers and statistics that were provided because that's not something that I have a background on. But from being on that corner, I would just like to make sure that you consider the safety of the people who are there. I'm not sure exactly what the days were that this was done, but we have a good number of children and families who are on that corner coming into our building on a regular basis during daytime hours. We also have a bus that stops in front of the office 5 times a day, and those folks are going to the apartments upstairs in my building, and then also behind our building up on Granite Street. They walk up there as well. So there's a good number of pedestrians there also. The angle parking has posed just a little bit of a difficulty when you're actually at the intersection on Wyoming, because you can't see to the right or left when the vehicles are parked there to see around the trucks that are right in front of the building. So I guess the only thing I just would really like you to think about is the safety of who's there. And if they have to slow down for a light or a stop sign, whichever, then they're slowing down and it's making a safer environment so that people aren't speeding through there and not catching those children and their families who are in and out.
Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brenda. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Everyone knows how I feel. This is my district. It's been my district for 10 years. I think I know it better than most of the commissioners sitting here as well. I mean, I just know what we need. I've talked to everyone around in that area, and I stand by my convictions on this, and I would like to make a motion to approve removing the signals at the intersection of Wyoming and Broadway, but to put a 4-way stop at the intersection, and then to go forward to ask the county attorney to draft the appropriate revisions to the ordinances.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the question. Commissioner Fisher?
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I'd just like to weigh in a little bit on this. I think the studies are great and the numbers, that Dow done, and I'm sure they've done a good job. But, in this particular incident, we have someone that has a business there. Cindy's talked to other people there. We got to kind of listen to the people that are in that area. I mean, if something happens around my house, I would rather me and my neighbors make a decision than have somebody that done a study 4 years ago. And in this case, Cindy polled the neighborhood. The woman come up and spoke on it. I think we got to kind of honor a little bit about what's happening here. I mean, if you remember, the people that come to the chambers and speak usually are the ones that, get their way. And in this case, I kind of got to go with what Cindy's saying on this because I don't live up there. I don't get up there as often. And I think if this is, what Jim Kamich has said, and if, the terrace people at the Finland said, if this is what they want, I think I got to go that way. So thank you.
Commissioner Henderson?
Mr. Chief Executive, Nick, I just had one question. Just wondering about this for even the future, but do they, when they do a traffic analysis, MDT, you guys don't do that, right? MDT does, right?
Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Henderson, we do some stop sign warrant analyses. We don't have the equipment to do actually signal warrant analyses, so that's why we have to sub those out to different contractors, but we can do stop sign warrant analyses in-house.
Okay, well, follow up, Mr. Chief Executive. Well, kind of the question then, I'm wondering about whether you did it or MDT or if you were involved. Do you ask that neighboring area when you do an analysis? I mean, today's day and age, do you, just like striping or anything else or crosswalks, do you actually ask any of the neighboring, whether it be businesses or residential or motels or whatever, is that involved in the decision, the final decision by you or MDT?
Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Henderson, it's the comments, we do take comments seriously from constituents. The comment portion is not actually provided in, is not considered in the warrant analysis. It's not a warrant. These warrants are actually based on, numbers and data and facts instead of kind of what people are feeling out there. So they're definitely taken seriously, and we have to look at what their concerns are, but they're not actually part of the warrant analysis itself.
Thanks, Nick.
Commissioner McDonough and then Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. This question would be for Molly. If we approve a motion for a four-way stop on Broadway in Wyoming and it's not warranted, and somebody has an accident on that intersection and it's challenged in court, do we have any, is it possible for them to have the case thrown out, or do we put ourselves in legal harm or liability with putting a four-way stop in a intersection that's not warranted by the state of Montana?
County Attorney.
Commissioner McDonough, Chief Executive and Commissioners, of course, if somebody is hurt and sues the county and they do discovery and see that there was a study done that recommended a stop sign at Wyoming and Broadway being a through street, that would be evidence that would perhaps come into the lawsuit, but I can't speculate as to, how that may come out or not come out. But of course, during discovery, if that came out, it could be part of the case.
Follow up, Commissioner McDonough.
Thank you. I hear everyone's concerns, and I think we're all in tune to safety, but I'm inclined to trust the people that work in this every day, that being the engineers and MDT, and they've recommended that we take it out because we don't meet a single threshold. And 4 years ago, when the study was conducted, as Commissioner Henderson points out, was when there was full occupancy at 40 East Broadway. And we don't have that yet again. So at this time, I'd like to make a substitute motion to concur with communication 16-160 and remove the traffic light at the corner of Broadway and Wyoming Street.
And place on file.
And make Broadway a through street and place on file.
Second.
Okay, we have a substitute motion to go with the recommendation on that question. Anything? Commissioner Anderson?
Thank you very much, Chief Executive. My thoughts on it will be pretty brief, which is a rarity for me. However, plenty of time of the night. However, you do have to take into consideration, I believe, the people who are living there. And a hypothetical lawsuit, if it's a four-way stop sign, and if the chances of likelihood is someone running the stop sign, so they're going to be at fault and not really the county. The only thing I could see if it was a rear end accident. And again, stop, pay attention to your surroundings. It's on the onus of the person who caused the thing. Maybe they come back and sue the county for they should have never taken the light out. However, it's kind of a silly game to play. This warrant analysis that the county did, when you look at the numbers and the time frame, it ends at 5:30. You have restaurants there that are packed after 5:30. There's a lot more traffic there. I live right down the street from there. I walk it quite a bit. I drive through there even more so. I would rather it be a through street because it's easier for my traffic and driving patterns. I'm sure some other people would. However,
I feel, especially at night in the evening hours, the traffic is a lot more congested there due to the restaurants and everything else. And the other thing is when you have the businesses who are asking for it, I think we need to kind of go along with their wishes also in this. So I would encourage everybody to vote with Cindy on this.
Commissioner Morgan?
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Just one follow-up comment. We have to face it that no matter what we put there is not going to guarantee no accident is going to happen there, and that people need to drive safe, pedestrians need to be safe, and use their own heads and make their decisions as they cross the street or drive their cars. So no matter what we put there, it's not going to guarantee no accidents.
Commissioner Purdue Dolan?
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I just wanted to make a comment and thank Commissioner Shaw for doing the due diligence and talking to the business owners and the folks who are right by this intersection. I know there's been lots of talk in Public Works about this issue, and I would just ask Nick, in the future, when you're talking about other lights and other stop signs and other intersections, I would ask that possibly it would be incumbent upon you and maybe the other folks to possibly work with community development or community enrichment to do that due diligence as well, and talk with the folks who use the street, use the intersections, because it's their safety we're most concerned about. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Ralph?
Thank you. Nick, I think I need to commend you for all the due diligence that you have done. You've done an excellent job, a lot of research, you've talked to a lot of people. I think what it all boils down to is everybody believes there's a way to make the intersection safer. We can't agree on which way that is. I would just urge everyone to vote for the method that they believe will make that intersection the safest possible. Thank you.
Commissioner Foley?
Thank you. Nick, could you answer for me? You said that 90 days, the light's been flashing yellow going over Wyoming and red going up Wyoming. How many days has that been?
Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Foley, it's been since the beginning of January, so it's been a little over 90 days now.
Okay. Follow-up?
Follow-up.
Could you possibly tell me, if you, I don't know if you know this, or maybe Commissioner Shaw can answer that, how many accidents have occurred because of that?
Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Foley, there's been 0 accidents since that time.
Okay. One follow-up. And I guess, and I've said this in Public Works, we have to base decisions not on what we think. We hire you as an engineer for Butte-Silver Bowl. We hire companies to do analysis. We have to go with what people, I mean, the experts. If we're all experts up here on every issue, that's fine. And I'm not saying not to listen to the public, because Commissioner Dolan, the reality is Nick is just as concerned about safety. That's why he's coming before us here. So you have to be careful of saying that, you know, by not talking to residents, you know, you're putting people's harm or safety at harm or harm's way. And that's not the case. The reality of it is, and we mentioned people working in the Thornton building. The vast majority of the people in the Thornton building, you can go watch it in any given day, will go up Wyoming Street and cross an intersection that at one time had a stop sign or a stoplight there. We took that out. And they were crossing up to their cars, as far as I know, and there has been very little, if any, accidents occurred in that intersection after taking it out. And I think we have to look at that. Again, it's an issue of change and not wanting to, you know, accept that Butte, Montana is not in the metropolis that we were in the 1950s and 60s. The traffic volumes are not what they were when these stoplights were put in. We are trying to make progress, and that's whether it's acceptable or not. And as far as people speeding over Broadway Street, I mean, I don't see that happening there. And base our decisions again on facts. I've gone through a similar situation. I think everybody knows that down in Platinum and Excelsior, a big issue over there. And let's put a 4-way stop. People are saying, "Oh, it'll be bad. It's terrible." It's probably been the safest move that we've ever made because we looked at the analysis, we looked at what's warranted, and we have a positive result of it. So, and Commissioner Ralph is right. We can sit here and argue this all night, and we're not going to change our views. So we might as well just vote. But I thank the Public Works Department for moving forth with what your job is supposed to be doing. And, in doing what's given us the right information. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Purdue Dolan, followed by Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I just wanted to clarify, I was commending Nick on the work that they've done and thought it would be an enhancement to suggest in the future, when they were doing future analysis of additional stoplights, stop signs, and intersections, to work with community development enrichment and to speak with folks that are on those areas or in those areas. So it was nothing detrimental. So if you interpreted that way, I apologize, Commissioner Foley. It was a thumbs up to Public Works. It was a suggestion. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you very much, Chief Executive. And just a real brief thing. One of the reasons we put a four-way on that intersection was because of the immense amount of speed that people were carrying going down the hill. And we wanted to have that four-way stop sign to slow people down. It's one of the reasons I asked for a four-way somewhere else. And it's living on Broadway. It's a very narrow street at some places. And to be able to stop those cars going through there and slow them down for a little while is very much a matter of health and safety, and a very good idea, as it was on Platinum. Thank you.
Okay, on the question, Commissioner McDonough.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Since the warrant analysis was conducted, we've implemented angle parking on Broadway Street, which is like severely condensed the flow through traffic. I mean, if anything that I've noticed driving across Broadway, people drive slower because they're going to see if somebody's going to pull in or back out in front of them, which has actually made it safer. We've provided more parking and people move slower. In my opinion, I've driven there at peak hours and driven there at different times during the day. I mean, with angle parking uptown, I don't think it's not safe. I think it's been an improvement to bring people into the area, but I also think that it's helped the traffic flow because people are more cognizant of people pulling in and out of parking spots as well as intersections. So we didn't have that before, and thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Ralph, and I hope you're calling for the
I
question.
call for the question.
Second.
Okay, we have a second on the call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries there. To restate the motion, there's a substitute motion to concur with the recommendation and place on file. We'll make this a roll call vote. So everybody cast their votes. All votes in. Clerk, can you please record?
6 yay and 6 nay.
Somehow I knew that was going to happen. I want to ask a couple of questions of Nick, and before I cast my tie-breaking vote here. So you did allude to the fact that this signal is at the end of its life, correct?
Mr. Chief Executive, yeah, it's heading towards the end of the life. It was actually the most recent drawings that we have of it is back in 1968. Not sure if that was when it was put in or if that one was when it was updated, but it's getting towards the end of its life for sure. Yeah.
And so for follow-up, if that light were to be replaced, it would have to be on our dime, given that it's not warranted, correct?
Mr. Chief Executive, yeah, that is a Butte-Silver Bow jurisdiction light. It was maintained by Butte-Silver Bow, so it would be on our dime. And to actually fully upgrade a signal from bottom to top would be roughly $170,000.
Okay. That being said, I'm going to break the vote in favor of the motion to concur with the recommendation and move forward with what's been determined. I would urge that this is not anything in regards to the concerns that were stated tonight, but more so that we've had a 90-day period when we tested out the safety up there. We have heard that there's no accident reports at this point, and we'll move ahead. And I don't think it makes sense to keep the signal up any longer, just as much as it doesn't make any sense to put up a four-way stop when it's not warranted. If we run into some issues, we can always revisit this in the future. So that being said, it'll be recommended and placed on file. But I guess I don't know if the vote's been cast. I don't know if there's nothing more to say. Discussion's over.
Just made a mistake with my voting because of the substitute motion, so that's why I was trying to.
Oh, okay. So do you need to
Can we re-vote only because I meant to?
You have to
vote
make a
for-
motion to reconsider.
Can I make a motion to reconsider?
Given that there's no prevailing side, either side can make a motion to reconsider?
Mr. Chief Executive, I believe that's correct.
Okay, so motion to reconsider in a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Commissioner Fisher?
One question, Mr. Chief Executive. I don't think you asked if anyone wanted to change their vote prior to the roll call vote.
That
And
is
if you would have
correct.
done that, I think we would have had the correction made prior to the vote.
Well,
Change the
we've got the opportunity to do so now. So let's re-vote on this is on the substitute motion to concur with the recommendation and place on file. Are there any questions before you cast your vote? Commissioner McDonough?
As a point of order, did the motion to reconsider even pass?
It did pass. I said all those in favor, and
We just did a vote.
I heard aye.
There was no follow-up to ask if there was a nay vote on a motion to reconsider to unwind everything. That's why did I miss it?
I guess you missed it. It's the opinion of the chair that the vote was given and the motion to reconsider passed. So this is a revote on the same motion. Okay, please cast your votes. All votes in. Clerk, can you please record?
5 yea and 7 nay.
Okay, well, the motion does not pass.
So go to the original.
Then it goes back to the original motion. And to restate the original motion, Commissioner Shaw,
I move to authorize the removal of the signal lights and to put up a four-way stop at the intersection and to hold it in advance while we have the county attorney's office do the appropriate changes to the ordinance.
okay, and that motion's
I'm just
already been made.
restating.
It's already been made and seconded. So please cast your votes if there's nothing on the question. Does anyone wish to change their vote? Okay. Seeing none, clerk, can you please record?
9 yea and 3 nay.
Okay, motion prevails.
Thank you.
So where were we? Communication 16-185, Carl Hafer, 6050 Porter, Butte, Montana, requesting Council of Commissioners and the Chief Executive address reasoning with regard to Grove Creek contamination and future plans. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Actually, I talked to Carl right before the meeting, and he asked if he needed to speak, and I told him he could have the opportunity to do so. I explained to him, and this, you read the caption, okay, that we were referring it to the Technical Review Committee, the environmental portion of that, and we would hold it as in a placeholder in the Committee of the Whole. But Chief Executive Vincent asked me to call on Carl, so give him an opportunity.
I didn't know if you'd been given the opportunity.
Yeah, Carl.
Carl, if you don't wish to speak tonight, you don't have to. I just wanted to give you an opportunity.
Well, I have already talked to the lady, and we're going to put it in abeyance and address it at a later date.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
So that being said,
Then I would concur with the recommendation 16-185 to refer it to the Technical Review Committee and hold this in the Committee of the Whole until further review. Thank you. Second?
Second.
do we have a motion and a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Communication 16-190, Lori Casey, Assistant Planning Director, requesting Council of Commissioners approve the final plat of the Hondo Acres minor subdivision with all 13 conditions as stated. Commissioner Henderson.
Mr. Chief Executive, I see John here, so I just want to ask a question of John. If I don't know where this is at, I'm sorry, John, and I didn't have the computer today. It was down, and so I would have called if I knew, and I couldn't find it on these guys yet, so I don't know where it's at.
Okay.
Mr. Cecil?
Mr. Chief Executive, members of the council, Commissioner Henderson, the 5-lot minor subdivision is off the North Buxton Road. At least 2 of the lots abut the property that is our tax increment financing district and really REC's property. So you know where the Tiffin is, and REC is in that section 35. And so this is right below section 35. It's in the next township.
Okay.
That's where it is.
Thanks, John. With that, Mr. Chief Executive, I'll concur and place on file 16-190.
Motion and a second. Is there anything on the question, Commissioner
I just
Shaw?
think that Dennis thought this was Hendo's acres.
Yeah, I didn't know I bought any. I'm sorry.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
I had to say, I'm sorry.
Good move.
Section 3, communications to be read and acted upon. 16-186, Wayne Nome, Secondary Roads Engineer, Montana Department of Transportation, requesting Council of Commissioners and the Chief Executive to approve changes to the Butte District Secondary Roads Capital Construction Priority List, complete 2 ballots, and return by May 27, 2016. Mr. Nome.
Mr. Chief Executive, council members, Wayne Nome, Secondary Roads Engineer with the Montana Department of Transportation. What I brought before you is a request for a priority change to the 2005 Butte District Capital Construction Program. In 2005, the 9 counties from the Butte MDT's Butte District approved a priority list. As we go down through the top to the bottom on the list, Park County's project came up. That project was to correct a slide on Mission Creek. Mission Creek is south of Livingston. We programmed the project. We had our geotech people go out and take a look at it. When they did that, we found out that that small 50-foot slide was inside of a quarter-mile slide, was inside of a 1-mile long slide. With their recommendation, we decided not to do anything, not to go forward with the project, because if we open that up, we could be finding that we need to do a lot more than what could be feasibly done. So their recommendation was to do minor spot repairs, keep the road open as best as possible, and not create a larger problem than what they have already. Along with that, Park County also requested to drop Mission Creek from the secondary roads program. They chose Pine Creek to be functionally classified through MDT, and then requested through the Transportation Commission to have that added to the secondary program. So they approved that March 24th, I believe, at their Transportation Commission. Then Park County requested of me to put out to the counties of the Butte District to have their priority change from Mission Creek to Pine Creek. So that's the first request. The second request is MDT's priority on secondary 540, also south of Livingston. That project was to go from the intersection of Chico Hot Springs down to about milepost 4. That project is also unfeasible to do because the people of that area do not want anything done to their road, not in their front yard, not in their backyard, not in their neighbor's front yard, not in their backyard,
They don't want anything anywhere other than fix potholes, put a chip seal on it, and keep it straight. That's all they want done on their road through that area. They do not want it to be a alternate route to get down to the park. They want to keep everybody on the US highway as they go through. So that is a project that's unconstructable due to public opinion. So MBT is requesting to do 2 larger pavement preservation projects. Those projects are ones that they would not normally be able to do. MDT is only allowed about $1 million a year in the Butte District to do pavement preservation. This will allow us to get a lot of roadway back up to snuff in a short amount of time. With these 3 projects being in the $2 to $2.5 million range, that will allow me to move those projects around, fit them into the program, and actually get them through and out the door even faster than a larger project. I can find smaller holes and be able to move through the priority list faster.
Okay. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Thank you, Wayne, for coming here. I'm kind of the culprit that invited you to explain, number one, the fact that these aren't really Butte areas, but we are in a district. Is that the way I understand it?
That is correct. In the 1999 legislature, they changed how the secondary roads program operated. It used to be on an individual county basis, and they changed that by law 60-3-206 to where they would lump together the counties within the 5 MDT districts. So within your district, there are 9 counties within that district.
Follow up? And the reason that you sent this to us is you need signatures from the chief and from, I believe, a couple of commissioners as just to show our goodwill to approve those, even though we don't really understand maybe all those areas, not being in Butte. But is that the case?
Mr. Chief, you got to get Commissioner Shaw. Yes, that is. In order to make a priority change in the priority list, we need to have a majority consent of the 9 counties within the district.
Okay. And we will just do that after our meeting tonight. When that, want to stick around, we can give it to you, or would that work? I believe just a signature.
Sure.
Okay.
Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Thank you, Wayne. Now, I read this, that these 2 projects are going to be the ones that are, you're not going to do in Park County, are going to be done in Beaverhead County. Is that correct?
Correct. One is going to be in Gallatin County and one is going to be in Beaverhead County.
I see. And I think, hearing you a little bit ago, there would be no chance that Butte-Silver Bow could get one of them done in our county.
Mr. Chief Executive, Council Member, that is not the recommendation that the MBT district, Butte District, gave forward to me. The project that's being done in Butte-Silver Bow is Browns Gulch. That is actually number 1 on the priority list. That project is going to be, or should be let to contract somewhere in 2018. And we're going to replace 2 bridges and reconstruct about a mile of road out there.
Follow up, Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you again, Mr. Chief Executive. I noticed the one project in Beaverhead County was ranked like number 8 amongst the 10 that you show on the list here. The one you dropped was they're higher rated projects. And I don't see any Butte-Silver Bow projects rated in the top 10 anymore. Will this move another project by doing the Beaverhead County or the Gallatin County? Will this move some Butte-Silver Bow projects back onto the priority list?
Mr. Chief Executive, Councilmember Fisher, it will not. In order to add projects to the list, Butte-Silver Bow would have to request that. The operating procedure that we have, the guidelines in place that we have worked through with the counties and MBT and MACO has been to create a priority list, work it from top to bottom, construct the projects as they become available and funding becomes available. Once we get to the bottom of the list, we create a new list. The original list was done in 2000. This 2005 list is exactly what had happened. We had come to the bottom of the original list, created a second list. Now we're working on the second list.
Thank you, Wayne. I appreciate your input. This is a pretty good education for me tonight to learn this, and thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Just so we know, when is the next time the list comes up for reprioritization?
Mr. Chief Executive, that's unknown. It depends upon funding levels. It depends upon size of projects. There's a lot of variables to it. I would imagine it's going to be probably at least 10 years before another priority list comes up.
Okay, very good.
Unless projects keep getting smaller and we can get them out the door faster, but good luck on that.
All righty.
Except for that, this time it happens to be that our one project was about $8 million, and the 2 projects we are substituting in are less than 5. So we are making headway.
Very good.
Thanks,
Commissioner Ralph?
I see we have a recommendation to concur and place on file, but I don't think we have an actual motion yet. Is that correct?
That is correct. Commissioner Shaw?
I told Tracy 50 lashes with a wet noodle. She's still, this is one of those exceptions. She didn't realize she wasn't to put a recommendation on those. And so I'm sure with her, she's doing such a great job. She'll never do that again, right, Tracy? Yeah, you're right. We need to make a recommendation. So did you want to do that, Cheryl?
Cheryl?
Sure. I can appreciate that if we have a quarter-mile slippage within a mile slippage, well, a 50-foot slippage within a quarter mile within a mile, it's probably a big problem, and in an area where a lot of the tourists that come here pass through. Appreciate your hard work, and I would make a motion that we concur and place on file.
We have a motion and a second on the question.
I was just going to say, and there is a form that we will fill out, and we'll make sure it's signed for you. So
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Communication 16-203, Gail Clark, Divide School District Number 4 Business Clerk, requesting Council of Commissioners to support the removal of the Divide School from the isolation list with the Montana OPI. Ms. Clark?
Hi. Thank you, Commissioners and Chief Executive. I'm here tonight on behalf of District Number 4, Divide School District Number 4. We at this time are asking for your signature in supporting keeping us on the isolation status list, to just clarify the confusion there. This is something that is conducted every 3 years. If your A and B numbers fall below 10 for 2 consecutive years, then you will come off of that isolation status and be removed. So with that being said, without a signature and an application submitted by the district, it looks like the levy would go onto the taxpayers for about $18,674, is what it was. So at this time, we're just asking for your support in helping us out with the funding of Divide School District Number 4.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Clark. Are there any questions for Gail? Commissioner Walker?
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Ms. Clark, how important is this to the Divide School?
You know, this is significant for us. Right now, with the upcoming school year, we have about 6 kids enrolled. There are some other students and families that are interested in coming. Without this funding, basically at this point, through the 2015-2016 school year, we are in isolation status, which is great. It's fully funded by the state. Without this, it gets us cut in half. The amount that would go to the taxpayers, you know, just based off last night, 126 registered voters. I'm not sure how many are out in the Divide area, but that goes on the levy for those taxpayers to have to pick it up. And I believe the figures came into the ballpark of about $167 every 6 months. You know, and we're looking at ranch families and, you know, people that have nice homes on the rivers, or even the small families, you know, that don't have a lot out there. That's a significant amount, especially coming off the mill levy last night and their current taxes that they have to pick up the burden to carry that. So.
Okay, Commissioner Shaw?
I think Cheryl had her hand
Oh,
up first.
Commissioner Ralph, my apologies.
Oh, that's fine. I just wanted to clarify. The letter says we're asking for support on removing the Divide School. We actually want to keep it on the isolation list. Is that correct?
That is correct. Through this year, through 2015-16, we are on isolation. but without the signature, it removes us from that list and under that status. And that's what we're asking for, is your support to take us and put us back on isolation, not on the list that would remove us.
Follow up.
Follow up.
In that case, I would make a motion to concur and place on file.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second to concur and place on file on the question. Commissioner Palmer?
Mr. Chief Executive, thank you. I think that is not what we want to do. If we concur with the recommendation in the communication, we'll take them off isolation status. So at this time, I'll make a motion that we authorize the chairperson to sign the application to keep the Divide School on the isolation status list.
Second.
Okay, and is that correct, Commissioner Shaw?
I'm going to ask Gail, is that, I mean, we need to make sure we're voting on the right thing.
Let me pass this on to you, and I did get this clarified today from Office of Public Instruction in case there were some questions and concerns about that. This came from Nika Morala, and she's the head of the department of the finance, school finance department down there, and she states Divide is currently isolated. Isolation is approved for 3 years. After that time, if the budget limit A and B is less than 10 for 2 consecutive years, isolation needs to be reapplied for. So that's what we're asking for, to remain, because we're currently on isolation right now, which you guys passed 3 years ago. We're asking to remain in isolation and not be taken off of that list.
Okay, so I would say then it is correct. Commissioner Morgan?
So just to verify, the communication says Gail Clark, Divide School District Number 4, Business Clerk, requesting the Council of Commissioners to support the removal of the Divide School. That's not what you want us to do.
Yeah, that's why I'm clarifying right now, because basically without that application, without that signature, it takes us out of isolation. It removes us to.
So Palmer's motion is okay.
Correct.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, is that clear to everybody that we're?
I think we
Thank you.
got it all square now.
Ignorance is not
Anything
bliss.
further on the question?
I see the blinking light.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Communication on file.
Very good.
Place it on file.
Place it on file.
You saw the note there.
Section 4, just take note of the following ordinances and resolutions referred to Judiciary Committee. Looks like Commissioner Walker and his colleagues will be busy here. Section 5, ordinances, second reading. Number 1, clerk, can you please read the title?
Council Bill number 16-4, ordinance number 16-4, an ordinance amending section 17-060.030 of Butte-Silver Municipal Code, BSBMC, which section adopted the zoning map of Butte-Silver, State of Montana, providing for a change to the official zoning district map by rezoning approximately 10 acres from NZ not zoned to OSD, Open Space Developable Zone, commonly known as the Walkerville Baseball Field and the Lexington Mine Yard, and to rezone approximately 107 acres from NZ not zoned to OSC, Open Space Conservation Zone, commonly known as the Alice Knob, Alice Pit, Granite Mountain, and Missoula Gulch, and to rezone approximately 6 acres from NZ not zoned to C2, Community Commercial Zone, commonly known as Blaine Community Center, Sherman School, and certain properties along West Daly known as 1, 7, 11, 13, 303, 307, 309 West Daly, and to rezone approximately 358 acres from NZ not zoned to R2, two-family residence zone, bounded on the north by Alice Street, on the west by the west boundary of the city limits of Walkerville, on the east by Seraph Point, and on the south by Ryan Road and O'Neill Street, and to rezone approximately 727 acres from NZ not zoned to R1S, one family suburban zone, commonly located in Section 1, Township 3 North, Range 8 west of the PMM of the City and County of Butte-Silver, State of Montana, providing for the repeal of all parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date herein.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I move to place Council Bill number 16-4 and ordinance number 16-4 on second reading and passed, having been deemed fully read at length.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there anything on the question? Seeing none, please cast your votes. Does anyone wish to change their vote? Okay, clerk, can you please record?
12 yea and 0 nay.
Okay, ordinance passes. Section 6, ordinances and resolutions for final reading. Number 1, clerk, can you please read the title?
Council Resolution number 16-18, a resolution authorizing and approving the sale of a certain parcel of real property located in the southeast 1/4 of Section 11, Township 3 North, Range 8 West, PMM, Butte-Silver County, Montana, for the purpose of community development in accordance with the procedures of Butte-Silver Municipal Code, and providing for an effective date herein.
Thank you, Commissioner Shaw.
I move to place Council Resolution 16-18 on final reading and passed, having been deemed fully read at length.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there anything on the question? On the question, Commissioner Palmer.
Mr. Chief Executive, once again, I'd like to abstain from voting on this as my brother is the one purchasing this land.
Good enough. Anything else? Please cast your votes. All votes in. Clerk, can you please record?
11 yea and 0 nay.
Okay, resolution passes. Number 2, clerk, can you please read?
Council Resolution 16-20, a resolution vacating, closing, discontinuing, and abandoning that portion of the alley located adjacent to lots 1 through 14 and adjacent to lots 15 through 28 in Block 6 of the Fairview addition to the City and County of Butte-Silver, State of Montana, prescribing the effective date of this resolution and finding the necessary facts herein.
Thank you, Commissioner Shaw.
I move to place Council Resolution number 16-20 on final reading and passed, having been deemed fully read at length.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there anything on the question? Seeing none, please cast your votes. All votes in with no changes. Clerk, can you please record?
Oops, I'm sorry, I'm a yay.
12 yea and 0 nay.
All right, passes. At this point, is there any public comment on matters that were not discussed on tonight's agenda? Any public comment on items that weren't on the agenda tonight? Okay, seeing, Commissioner Sorich.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I just want to add that this Saturday, there's going to be a large dumpster behind the racetrack fire hall as part of the Beautify Butte program for any of the neighbors that want to clean up down that area. And also the organizers asked that the dumpster be supervised just to make sure there's nothing thrown in there that doesn't belong. So who would ever like to, I'm going to be there to supervise, and whoever else would like to do this, let me know. We can maybe set some hours or just show up between the hours of 8 and 3.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Sorich. Calendar of other meetings and of events, please take note. Does anyone have anything additional to add?
Say Happy Mother's Day down a little early.
That's right, that's right. Commissioner Sorich again?
Just one change on there. It says the fair board is May 11th. It's actually May 9th, as noted on the Butte-Silver Bowl website. It's going to be at 6 p.m. at the Perkins or the Hops at 6 p.m. this Monday.
Okay, thank you very much. Nothing further? Motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting adjourned.